Hello, my name is Herman Melville. I was born on August 1st, 1819 in New York City. I was the third born child in my family. My mother, Maria Gansfort Melville, worked very hard to raise all 8 of her children, while my father, Alan Melville, ran the family business and imported French dry goods. When I was 12 years old, my father's business went bankrupt and he died shortly after that, leaving our family with no money to provide for ourselves. When this happened, we all tried to help out by getting jobs, which meant I had to stop writing. However, I was not able to maintain a steady job, so I left my family and began going on voyages. These adventures that I experienced as a sailor inspired many of my novels. The first voyage that I was a part of was in January of 1841 on the whaler Acushnet, which traveled to the South Seas. The experiences that I had during those 6 months at sea became my first novel that I named Typee. Typee was considered my most popular novel during my lifetime. It sold about 6,000 copies just during the first 2 years. I named this novel Typee because it mostly describes the cannibalistic life of the Typee people. My companions and I jumped off the side of the ship after 2 months of being on it, and then we spent the next 4 months as guest captives on the island of Nakuvia in the Pacific Ocean. In this book, I discussed the role of racism that took place in the community and how it was linked to colonialism. It also explains how during my time with these people, I was able to learn to distinguish a savage from a cannibal. My next novel, Umu, was a sequel to Typee. It described my voyage on the Australian whaler Lucy Ann and my experiences in the Polynesian islands. This novel gained just as much popularity as my first novel did. People began seeing my works in a certain way. In my third book, Marty and a Voyage Thrifter, I began to see how far I could change my view on things in my writing. The book sold just as many copies as my other 2, but I lost most of my audience because they did not like my new style of writing. When I met my wife, Elizabeth Shaw, I had already started working on my new novel called Moby Dick. After Elizabeth and I got married, we moved to Pittsfield, Massachusetts in a house near Nathaniel Hawthorne's. He was the one who helped me with writing this. I had almost completed the story when he convinced me to change it from a story full of whaling details to an allegorical novel. At first, this novel was not accepted by many because I began to question the faith and workings of God's intelligence, but it did eventually become my most famous and well-known novel. 30 years after I died, it was named a masterpiece, and my opening line has become one of the most famous lines in American literature. Here's a reading from the first page of my most famous novel, Moby Dick. Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse, and nothing particular to interest me on shore, I thought I would sail about a little and see the watery part of the world. It is a way I have of driving off the spleen and regulating the circulation. Whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it is damp, drizzly November in my soul, whenever I find myself involuntarily pausing before coffin warehouses and bringing up the rear of every funeral I meet, and especially whenever my hypos get such an upper hand of me that it requires a strong moral principle to prevent me from deliberately stepping into the street and methodically knocking people's hats off, then I account it is time to get to sea as soon as I can. This is my substitute for pistol and ball. With a philosophical flourish, Cato throws himself upon his sword. I quietly take to the ship. There is nothing surprising in this. If they but knew it, almost all men in their degree, some time or other, cherished very nearly the same feelings towards the ocean with me. In this first paragraph, I tell the readers a little bit about myself. It says that when I had nothing to interest me on the shore, I decided I would go travel around and see the oceans. I said that when something goes wrong in my life, I look to sailing to help me to get over it, and that nothing else can help me but the beautiful sea. I feel that you all should vote for me to be inducted into the Antebellum Hall of Fame because I have worked hard my whole life to create multiple pieces of work that have become very popular over the years, especially Moby Dick, which has one of the most famous first lines in American literature. I helped the American literature to become more diverse by writing allegorical types of novels as well as other genres.